Welcome to another episode of Over Us. Today, we have an incredibly special guest because a fellow Canadian and very close. I mean, you're about an hour and a half away from me, maybe 2 hours with traffic. We have Justin Konico on the program. A lot of you probably know who he is by now. He's torn onto the scene. I think Clubhouse had a lot to do with that. Like a lot of people found out about different agents through Clubhouse, and you're still utilizing Clubhouse. He's the owner of and founder of Prime Brokerage, and he is a legend of an agent. I don't know what else to say. Justin, thanks for being on the pod.
I appreciate the kind words. I don't think I'm a legend of an agent, kind of like you guys, right? Like one foot in front of the other for a very long time. And, I'm a 10-year overnight success, as they call it.
10-year overnight. So for people who may not know you, can you give us your elevator pitch? Who is Justin Konikow?
Oh, that's complicated. I'm a crazy person whose wife convinced him to get into real estate, kicking and screaming. My exact words to her is, I don't want to be a greaseball on a golf course. I work hard. No agents, I don't work hard. She tricked me, got my license because I thought I'd save the commission on investment properties like a good non-agent would think, and fell in love with the business. Marketing sales background. So I actually worked for a guy named Mike Smith, and I was in hospitality. So I used to run Joe Cool's, Jim Bob Ray's. If you've been anywhere near London, you probably met me. I was a bouncer, 155 pounds soaking wet. So instead of getting beat up, I learned to talk. I was a DJ, barback, supervisor, and I worked my way up to the marketing coordinator for his organization. And Mike was a really cool dude. Like I met him in the parking lot, sweeping up cigarette butts. I thought he was just a maintenance guy. We ended up forging a friendship, and really he espoused in me that kind of servant leadership mindset. So when I came into this business, a lot of what I learned in hospitality with Mike, belly to belly with consumers, rebranding the restaurants, everything that I took from that, I applied to real estate. My wife is my partner, owns all the businesses with me. She's very much analytical. So MBA from Ivy. You don't see her on any socials. I like to say she's the brains. I'm kind of the face of the organization, but that's where Prime came in, was we didn't find a solution for what we wanted from a brokerage standpoint. Don't worry, we don't recruit. So this isn't going to be a recruiting spiel. I like to say we're not even really your typical sales office. We turned away about 35 agents last year. We're just very zeroed in on being a real estate and a media company first.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Eric. I'm sorry you couldn't join Prime. He's just
I was itching to join. To move up north or
well,
20 right now to start selling real estate again.
Do you want to come out
burn
here
in hell
in LA right now?
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's what the email says, right?
Yeah, that's all it said. They haven't talked until now. It's a breaking episode right now. That's interesting that you were kind of that asshole who always comments on TikTok about how agents don't deserve any of the money. So you thought agents were just greaseballs, didn't deserve their pay, stuff like that before you got into it?
Well, TikTok wasn't around, so I definitely wasn't on TikTok. But
you're on MySpace.
I was a very, very quick to judge, right? And I've done this a couple of times in my life, and I'll be the first one to tell you and be vulnerable about it, of just making assumptions about people and industries. And like anything else, there's good and bad real estate agents. I like to say good ones are undervalued for sure. Bad ones are overpaid, just like anything else. But I really think that was the fun part about it, is we looked at the industry as not an insider. So like Eric, when you and I met, probably 9 years ago, I probably messaged you. You actually responded to me, which I was surprised about because you were starting to kind of grow at that point. And I realized that you were more like me than most of the people around me, because we were in an industry that we understood and we were doing transactions, but you were also bringing your personality into the business. And when I got into it, it was the old school, hey, go on Facebook, tell all your friends you're in real estate now, you're going to buy and sell real estate. I did that to 2 people and they both chirped me and they're like, this isn't you, just be you. So I kind of went the other way when the industry was going that way.
So you are also kind of a media savant. You're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you have these 45-minute long presentations that seem to be kind of agent to agent education. So what is the point of all of this? So you're saying it's not a recruiting. Is it just because you like the media aspect of it? Do you have your own media company? I saw also. So What is the point of producing these long form videos? They're really educational and good. I'm not saying like, what the hell are you doing? Sure. I just mean like, what's kind of like the end goal? Is it to get more people into your brokerage, or is it to like really hammer the media side?
Yeah, I love the question because I think a lot of people are going through that self-discovery themselves. For a long time, I had no idea, to be honest with you. I started a series called Prime Daily, which helped me build my real estate business. So think about it this way. There's like 4 companies. there's Prime Real Estate Brokerage, which is a platform, right? Take Justin out of that. Like you guys could plug into that. And if you worked within the platform, you get all the resources and whatnot. It's a brokerage. Like you could work there. There's Justin Konikow. I'm in production. So I'm actually selling. And the business that I do, a lot of it came from me doing these little informative videos for a long time. And then there's Prime Media Productions and then the agency side of the business. I used to be all four of those companies. Like I did everything. I was essentially the brokerage. I was my own transaction coordinator. I was my assistant. I was my production company with my own little camera. And I was the agency. Like I learned to run Facebook ads. I learned Google AdWords. Like my background is marketing, right? So, I got really annoyed in the industry when I would get hit up by these digital marketing agencies and they'd want to charge me $15,000 for a logo that I could get on Fiverr for $500, or they want to charge me a $2,000 management fee for my Facebook ads when I'm like, well, I could just put aside 2 hours of my life every month and do it myself. Like
that's how much I pay.
Yeah, that's great. Well, maybe you're doing it at scale, but
yeah,
at the time I didn't have the money, right? Like you either have time or money, and I had a lot of time. So I kind of learned all these little things as I was building it. And the companies just came as a solution to me realizing, well, it got to a point where I didn't have time. I had more resources. So why don't I build solutions for us internally? So the company started as, McDonald's making their own French fries. Like instead of me hiring outside photography companies, I just have my own company and have my own shooters and my own processes. And then the agency was the same thing. It was just compartmentalizing, saying, well, now I'm going to do this aspect of it because I get it. But I would say even on the brokerage side, a lot of people call me and they're like, should I just open my own brokerage? I'm like, well, I have Shannon. Like she runs that. I do no HR. I do no compliance. I don't want to do transaction coordination. So without Shannon, Prime Brokerage probably doesn't exist. My other companies, to answer your question, Eric, I have a huge passion for it. I like editing. I know how to use Premiere Pro. Like we were just talking about our friend, Brad McCallum, one of the best in the industry, probably not going to go as far as him in terms of me being able to edit to that quality, but I love this stuff. Like I love Peter McKinnon. I love Serhant stuff. If I could take the two of them and make them have a baby and I'm what comes out, that's kind of where my head's at. Right. So the production companies became just a cause and effect of everything else I did. Now, where they've gone is they've basically created two YouTube channels. So there's Prime Real Estate Brokerage, and that's brokerage community facing. So if you're looking to relocate to Southwestern Ontario, that's the channel. You're going to find the areas we cover, the houses, listing videos. That's the real estate arm. Justin Konikow's channel, I actually only started putting effort into in like May of this year. I think I had like 82 subscribers, but I hooked up with Benji Travis and Sean Cannell from Think Media and those YouTuber guys in Clubhouse, actually, of all places. Put my hand up. They were in a tiny room. Nobody knew who they were. I knew who they were. And I was like, start asking the questions. And then I just started showing up in YouTube rooms. And then I realized what YouTube actually is. Like people think it's another social media platform, but it's an actual business and it's something far bigger than I thought it was. So where I'm going with the Justin Konikow YouTube channel and why I do the informative videos is for two reasons. One, I got refined on who's actually watching my stuff. Part of that was through Clubhouse, realizing like I look at the audience and be like, okay, these are the people that are kind of my people. And then two, well, now I created a channel where I was doing it on the Prime channel, but that doesn't speak to the consumer. They don't care about productivity hacks, content creation. They just don't, right? So I separated the channels for that reason. I actively say I'm not selling anything. I don't have any courses. I do that because that's not my end game. My end game is to empower the me from 10 years ago that didn't know where to go. Like I have a history of drug addiction and some other stuff too that I had to overcome. And I've been 10 years sober, not because I'm special, because I had good people help me. So me coming back to the community and saying, well, I'm insane. This is how I manage my calendar. There's so much to do, but this is how I create content for different businesses. Creating those videos to me is building that community. And long tail, if I did have an ask, I would say it'd be to get on more speaking engagements and have opportunity to speak at conferences and stuff like that, which has started coming through those channels like crazy. Only I can't go anywhere because we're in Ontario and we're on lockdown. So
yeah, well, we're going to be speaking together in March.
Yeah, that's right.
Did Clubhouse kind of help instigate this shift in content for you? Like when you started getting in these Clubhouse rooms and people started looking at you as an authority figure on media and social media, is that kind of when you started focusing more on YouTube and agent to agent education, or was this happening before that?
Clubhouse helped me refine my ideas. So the other big thing, and I say this all the time, the reason I do the videos is it helps me work out my ideas. Because what people don't see, they see the 45-minute presentation that I do, but they don't see the hour or two I put into like the structure. So if I talk about how I create content, like how do I come up with my ideas? How do I actually shoot them? How do I set my gear up? How do I edit? I actually have to take a little bit of time and like itemize those. That to me has been very, very helpful. So Clubhouse combined with doing the videos has really sharpened that sword and given me direction. So to answer your question, yes, by finding Benji and Sean, and then also just by working out the ideas in a public forum.
And have you noticed like a lot more business or just a different avenue of getting business through these Instagram videos, YouTube videos, stuff like that?
Yeah, without a doubt. So on the brokerage side, I can tell you like we tripled the amount of incoming business by separating the channels, because Google didn't really know what to do with me, right? So when we did the prime brokerage channel and all it was like me doing a motivational talk, talking to two killers like you, and then showing a neighborhood, Google's like, what do I do with this guy? Like real estate agents want to watch him and buyers. So when I separated the channels, I noticed a huge uptick on the prime channel. So now we're getting like 30 calls a month roughly off those channels. And it's not even that big. And then on my personal channel, like I said, the proof started coming when people would call me and booking me for stuff. I got hooked up with somebody that manages Kevin O'Leary, and I'm doing like a little YouTube content presentation to them. Not because I'm special, just because I was out there enough for them to find me through those mediums, right? And just being focused in the medium.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you're. Sorry, go ahead, Matt.
No, we interrupted you once a episode. He went and got a fucking coffee and came back.
I turned off the heat because it was fucking up awesome. The mic. Okay. But are you confusing the algorithm at all on Instagram when you are doing kind of agent to agent education, and then you have more agent to client facing stuff on your feed? Because I've noticed you hide the reels. I don't know the strategy behind that necessarily, because you have some that are doing great numbers. So I know with Instagram, if you start posting stuff like towards a different audience, you kind of confuse it and then suppress your engagement a little bit.
Yeah. And I'm sure I'm leaving some growth on the table there, but here's the way that I actually think about it. So again, if I'm on YouTube, I'm like completely different channels because I'm still growing, like trying to get traction. If I can get to 5,000 subs, to me, that's something, right? On YouTube. When it comes to Instagram, I've been pretty thoughtful of keeping like 80 or 90% of my audience fairly close to me. So either they're in their community of real estate, like we know each other, or you're like a developer, or you're local to the area, or you're an actual like friend of mine, or you know me. So the reason I haven't really created the separation on Instagram to the same extent on my personal channel is the phone's still ringing, and people on Instagram, I almost want them to see both sides. Because if you think about Justin, you think about real estate and media. And I'll credit the Serhant team to telling me that, because they were the ones that kind of pointed me in that direction. So I want IG to kind of cover both. Like I do want you to think about me from the production and the agency side, because my agency and my production team, they are killing it. They're doing it with some stuff with some athletes. They do stuff in restaurants. They do stuff in hospitality. They did a huge yogurt manufacturer. And like, I'm not even really involved in that side. We're proprietary to real estate. So the only real estate stuff they do is for prime. But if it's my content, Eric, I'm okay to leave 10,000 followers on the table if they're not going to actually make the phone ring, rather control my messaging. In terms of hiding the reels, I just do that so that my feed maintains like a certain visual integrity. I don't know if I'm hurting myself by taking them off. I got to be more consistent with my reels. I hear what you're saying and I know they work. I got to like put it in my calendar and do it, because I know it's critical right now for growth.
Yeah, it's like been a huge thing for both of us for growth. Like I just started doing them last year as soon as it came out, and like, yeah, we've been pushing like crazy. And there's a bunch of different growth hacks that you can read in Eric's ebooks.
Do you have an ebook, Eric? I'll order it right now.
Yeah, it's free.
Free ebooks.
Three
ebooks. Instagram hacks, Instagram reels, how to be a better realtor.
Yeah,
and then
he's got it all.
I'm on it. I'm literally
another meme ebook.
What? A what book? A what book?
Meme ebook. How to make memes.
Oh, and then Commission Impossible.
I've got it on my desk outside. I was one of the first orders.
Barnes and Noble
outside
bestseller.
In the freezing cold.
Yeah.
Suction shut.
It's actually it's keeping up his deck. It's a little lopsided right now.
I got two under my computer right now. That's what I use them for. Just
Well,
propping.
Okay, Justin, why do you think agents still can't wrap their head around video? Don't you think it's strange that people still don't see the value in creating video for real estate?
Yeah, but it's the same agents that, like, when you're sitting around an office bullpen, are complaining about every listing appointment they lost, and they're in that kind of negative mind space, right? I think rather than being inspired by other people, they're usually trying to find excuses for why, that person, just lucked out. Like, again, Eric, people would watch the growth, but they don't see the thousands of hours in the beginning that he took, and every message you sent, and growing the accounts. Matt, like, your videos, the amount of effort it took you when you came out with those first concepts before I even knew you. Like, I know what it takes on the back end. And I think people, they're either just not willing to do the work, or I also think they're too skeptical, right? Like, they're so critical of something they don't understand. But look at the history. Like, go back to the 50s when it went from radio to TV, people were skeptical. Then look at the 2000s, the internet came around. I was around. I was a kid. I was in that like zone where I kind of understood what was happening. And everybody's like, oh, internet, that's a fad. And then it was, oh, I'm not going to buy stuff online. Oh, I'm not going to get Facebook. Nope, not going to get Instagram. No, TikTok's for kids. Like, literally every single time you say that, you look back and people are chasing it, right? They're looking at, the people that are getting real business from TikTok and Reels. And then they run into that space when it's completely oversaturated, and they try and catch up. And then they're like, see, it doesn't work. Right? Versus trying to find the blue oceans. And you just said it, Matt, like, you got into Reels when it first came out. Like, being a first mover comes with such an inherent advantage. The other piece to that, and I see this on the production side, is you're also not scared of falling on your face and pressing record. I think that is the biggest thing that stops everybody. My hair is not right. This isn't good. This isn't that. Mark Salerno the other day goes live on IG. I know Mark because territory wise, and he's great at video. I was in my sauna. I'd finished a workout, and I had my little iPhone and this little contraption I have outside the sauna. My hair was a disaster. I looked like a mess. I opened my little glass thing. I hit go live, request to join. I sat there with him for 20 minutes and talked about the market, right? I also got a huge bump in growth because he has a massive following that don't know who I am. And he's a friend. So that wouldn't have happened if I overthought, how do I look, or how's the audience get? Like, if I started getting into that self-defeating narrative, I would have just sat there and watched his live and absorbed his content and not grown any of my own. I was able to bring my audience to him. We collaborated, and then we leveled up because I wasn't too precious about it. I think that's the trick.
What about agents that aren't charismatic or good looking necessarily, or have no, they have no experience in front of the camera? What would you say to them who are listening to this and they say, I get it, I got to do video, but I suck on camera, I'm not doing it?
Yeah, it's always that easy for you to say. It's
right.
That's the whole thing. Easy for you to say. You
had a marketing background. You're polished. You're a good looking dude. You know how to speak.
Yeah, my hair is a disaster right now. I haven't had a haircut in a month and a half. It's like my Mandate playoff beard type thing that I have going on.
Perfect.
It's funny though, right? You say that, it doesn't feel like that to me. Like, I haven't had time, and I'm not too precious about it. It is what it is, right? I also think when I got started, so if you go to Instagram, you type in The Closers Daily, that's what it used to be called. And you go back to episode 1. I was like in my garage, lighting was terrible. I've got issues like anybody else, right? Like, I have as many self-defeating narratives as a lot of people. The one thing I don't do though is I don't look at the video I just shot 57 times and revise it and say, oh, I should have said that different. I just put it out in the ether and then it's gone. Because I think what I understand is that other people are so concerned with their own business and lives and how their feed looks, they barely have any time to look at yours, right? And I just think it's doing it over and over and over. My charisma, you called it, wasn't always there. I just stumbled my words right there, right? And it's something I had to develop over time. I was probably socially awkward because of my background a little bit, but I put myself in uncomfortable situations. And other key piece though was getting people around me that were helpful, right? Like, getting a good tribe of people that if I called you guys, I'm like, okay, I'm randomly said, what would you do with the Reels, or what would you do different? And you're like, oh, change this, and this. I wouldn't be like, oh man, Eric and Matt hate me because they said my Reels weren't good, and be all sad about it. I just go change it because I know you have my best interest at heart. So I think having a community of people and just putting in the reps is really what will get anybody through that.
Yeah, there's there's one thing with the people who won't even start doing the video, like we were just talking about, but then there's another thing with people doing it just to do it. What I like about your stuff, and it's cool because there's so much ways to be creative with content and be in different niches. Like our content is totally different, but it works for what we're doing. And I see so many people trying, like when I look at your content, I see someone who, oh, he knows who he is. He understands what he's doing and what he's good at, and he's excelling at those things. I think that's where a lot of people fall into like a trap. A lot of people message me, I want to do creative content, but I'm not funny. That's the main thing I hear. Like you only have to be funny to do creative content. And I have people also messaging me like, hey Matt, do you think I should start swearing? I'm like, no, man. Like that, like it's so odd. Like
That's amazing.
You know, it's just like you need to find like that part of you, like that you want to bring out on camera and have people gravitate towards. And that, like I said, exactly when I watch your stuff, it's like, you know who you are, you're like, you know what part of your personality you want to like present. And that's what I always tell people, like, why do people like you? What characteristics do people like about you? Bring that out in your video. If you're witty or funny or analytical, like bring that out. And that's how you can, you know, excel at video, because some of this shit now is like people are doing content and I'm like, fuck, man, this is not, this is cringy. This is probably hurting you. And
they're chasing the dragon, right? Like you go on TikTok or Reels, for example, and they're trying to trend jack because it works from a growth perspective, but you can smell it, right? Like I think the adjective strategy that the Serhant team uses, and I'll credit them for it because they're the ones that came up with it, was like, what are 3 adjectives that describe you? And funny would definitely be one of them. That's you, right? Like if I come in and I just start swearing like a madman and trying to be you, you'll smell it on me, right? But I got a different brain. And I think the more you're yourself, and this is where I love the industry is actually going this direction, the more you'll attract the right people, not overnight, but it'll attract the right people and you'll add the right people to your environment, which will empower you to go further down that path. I do think it changes too over time. Like I'll look at some of my stuff and think about my messaging. Like I thought about it realistically off a video that you were just talking about, Eric, where I talked for a long time about this is my productivity planner. This is how I do my schedule and everything else. I'm like, I'm not doing justice to my audience to tell them that like this, you have to do this to live some life of perfection. So I actually, in my messaging over the last month, have said 1,000 times, I hit that like 60% of the time. It's there, the structure's there, but I'm far from perfect. Like I need people to understand. I'm almost going to go the other way for a little bit and kind of humanize the process a little bit so people aren't hard on themselves, right? But I only realized that by paying attention to the messaging and like what my core values actually are and trying to communicate that with my audience.
Which is really smart, because that's something we do too, is we always tell agents to show their losses or show their imperfections. And doing that with your content, even though you're talking about agent to agent education and how people could be more productive and finding their niche and video tactics, even if you show your imperfection and vulnerabilities there, that's going to really help your message. So I think that'll crush for sure. So you met with Ryan Serhant, right? A couple of years ago, or in 2018, and it sounds like you take a lot of inspiration from him. So how did that meeting come to be? And what's the number one thing you took away from meeting Ryan?
Let's take a quick break because I got some important news here. Eric, do you want to make 2022 your best year yet?
Nope.
All right. Well, we're talking next level, triple your transaction volume, crushing the competition, kicking ass like Spider-Man, closing deals and taking names kind of success. Are you sure you don't want that?
Now I do, actually, because that's actually what happens when you partner with Boomtown, the #1 rated CRM in the game. It's got the tools and tech you need to generate and convert conversation ready leads. To check out Boomtown and see how you could score $750 in free digital advertising, visit boomtownroi.com/overask.
That's Boomtown, ROI.com/overask.
Well, if you go to my YouTube channel, I just did a whole video on this. No, I did actually. On Friday, I did a segment on how I met him, and he's actually become a mentor and a friend. So I know him and his whole crew super, super well. It actually came via Jazz Takar. So Jazz called me. If you guys know who he is, he's out of Don Mills in your area.
Yeah,
Matt
I know
ran
Jazz,
the, yeah. So Jazz and I actually go back to like Scott McGilvery days. So Jazz called me to work with him and Scott. I thought he was a scam artist. I'm like, how would Scott know who I am? Whatever. We ended up working together for years. So Jazz is like a friend. And he calls me one day and he's like, hey, I want to start a YouTube channel. But Jazz doesn't even use a laptop, like cell phone only. He's that type of guy, right? So I went down to the REC team, brought 2 of my guys. And I'm like, this is what you got to do. Set up the YouTube channel. No idea if he's going to do it or not. He went all in. Like Jazz is all in on YouTube. The podcast went crazy. But the first guest he booked was Ryan Serhant. So Jazz calls me the day he gets back from New York. And he's like, hey, you got to meet this guy. And my instant response was, what's Ryan going to teach me? He's in Manhattan. I only knew him from the show. And it was the one where he jumped in the pool and they made him seem like a bit of a cheese ball. And I was like, like not necessarily my type of guy, but that was the same mistake I made earlier, Eric. When I said I made an assumption about the industry, I made the assumption about Ryan. And I say this on the live video I did. Flew down, brought 2 of my agents. They weren't video editors by any means. Actually, Jamie's in the office right now. Commercial real estate agent, gave him like a Ronin and my EUS R, I think at the time. 2018, and then Nathan, who's my assistant. My thought was branding play, go down, shoot the podcast, hang out with them and see where it goes from there. I sat down with him 45 minutes. He told me everything, told me his split structure, his contract plans, how he gets new developments, told me how he builds his team, recruits. And I'm like, can't air any of this because it's all his secrets. But I was about to hire another coach actually. And I was in the cab on the way back to my hotel and I text my wife and I'm like, hey, what if I took the money I was going to offer that coach and just say, hey, Ryan, I'll pay you this to meet you once a year. Like didn't have to pay him to meet him the first time, but I was like, I want this guy to basically be my mentor because he's doing what I want to do, right? He's in production. He got a team very similar to us. And I'm like, if I think of Manhattan, I think of Southwestern Ontario, the boroughs are kind of like my cities, right? Instead of like Queens, Manhattan, it's like London, Lucan, Arva, whatever. She backed me 100%, sent him a cold email or warm email, I guess at that point after saying, hey man, appreciate that so much. I'll pay you X just for that 45-minute meeting once a year. And he goes, no need. He's like, I don't have time for coaching and that kind of stuff. He's like, you can come by the office anytime. Just very much like you guys, like super chill, like very humble, down to earth, and really spoke to his character at the time. In his book, Sell It Like Serhant, you see copies of it there. He talks about a developer that he pitched once. And what he did was bought a bookshelf and then sent a book to the developer every week until he got a meeting with the developer. So I reverse engineered that because I thought it'd be tongue in cheek. I had Dean Cain send him a cameo saying why he should mentor me and like just all this cheesy stuff. Eventually he's like, okay, stop. He's like, I'm working on something. I got a good idea. About 4 months after that, they reached out to me and they launched Sell It Like Serhant, the course. And they're like, hey, like we kind of built this course and it's kind of in early inception. Would you like to be a part of it? And I was like, I said I wanted it. Let's go. Right. So the way I look at that is the same reason I bought your book. I could have gone back to meet him every year and essentially tried to forge a relationship that way. Instead, I looked at like my favorite musicians. You launched the Broke Agent book. We'd been friends for years. Didn't even hesitate, ordered a copy. My whole team knows what it is. Just kind of help you in your little piece. You know, Ryan launches his course, same thing. I jump in, no expectation of what it's going to be, and just kind of put my eggs in that basket. And then when I went down and I met them, every time I met them, I would think of like something they were working on that I had that they didn't. Right. So like they didn't have the brokerage. I owned a brokerage. So I could tell them about operations and all those things. And then, you know, systems and processes. We're wizards with stuff like follow-up boss and systems, instructions, and follow-ups. And like copy all my plans, send them to Jen LS as head of new development. And then we develop a relationship. And then Raphael, Kyle, Sydney, like as their crew started going, really, I just started seeing how much we aligned from a branding perspective. And they've been integral because once a year I'll go down and I'll meet them and have a discussion about what we've done and where I want to go. And how Ryan's been so integral to me is just having a third party that's very different than me. Like what he's building is very different than what I'm building, just to bounce ideas off of, knowing that he just wants to see me grow. That's where, you know, my inspirations come from and how that relationship really developed.
You didn't buy anything from me, Justin. You got something from Brian, something from Eric.
What are you selling me? Send me a link. What do you got? What are you selling these guys, Matt?
We got some ugly sweaters.
We got some ugly Christmas sweaters on sale now because it's January.
Leonetti. Here.
Yeah.
I'm going to the merch shop right now.
Yeah, the Brokerage store. Use discount Serhant for 25% off.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Take care. Short sleeve.
He's right on there. You take care now. Yeah,
I like what you said. I like what you said there, Justin, about you providing something that they didn't have. And I think when people reach out to Matt or myself, a lot of people will just say, hey, can you give me a shout out? Or, hey, please post this or something like that, which never happens. Or share this. Some people will literally demand that it happens.
Yeah, they
Or
say
like, will
share
be
this.
perfect
They
for your
say
pitch.
share this, and then they say actually no, not that one. Share this one. I'm like,
Yeah,
I'm not
exactly. It's
fucking
like,
sharing.
I'm not sharing any of this. It's terrible. But
Yeah.
there's a few other people that have sent me memes or content that already has the broke agent branding on it and isn't specific to them. And it's just like, here's this if you want it. And that's always been the best way to, you know, get us to post something, or actually just tagging us in a story. And they're providing a piece of content that does well on my page, and then in turn gets them a tag as well. So I think that's a great strategy to do it. And Jason Cassidy did something similar that you did when I first started talking to him. He's an agent in San Diego, friend of the show, had him on the podcast. He bought like 20 Commission Impossible books.
That's
and then gave them away on his Instagram. So it was kind of like a, you know, promotional type of thing, but it helped me out, helped my brand out, and then helped his followers out. So there's plenty of ways to go about contacting people, but providing value to that person and not asking is a great way to do it. So props.
Yeah, that is a really good idea. And like, there's always some sort of value. I mean, don't think you're like the end all be all, but a lot of the times there's some sort of value you can bring someone that you might not even know. Like when someone looks at Ryan Serhant, they wouldn't even, just for you to have the wherewithal to be like, oh, I could like, he's missing this piece right now, I can tell him about this. People wouldn't really think to do that because he's Ryan Serhant. You know what I mean? So to do that was legit.
I
Good for
think
you. You're a legend.
people are so
We love you.
busy not listening. Matt, like everything you just said, like I was listening and taking it in, right? Cassidy, I wrote that down his name. I'm gonna probably check him out after too. So like now you
Fuck
put
Cassidy.
him on.
You don't need to check him out.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
I was just with him in Vegas. I've had enough of him.
But
Just kidding, great guy.
you're doing it like you're just bringing him up for the sake of bringing it up for the context of the story. But again, people can smell it on you when you're giving for the sake of the ask that's coming. Like I can tell pretty quickly when it's coming down the pipeline. Like the mortgage agent that calls me and says, "Oh, let's go have some coffee and sit down and talk." Like I know what that conversation is. So I don't have time for it, unfortunately, right? Like if you want to build a relationship with me, let's do that. And let's see if it evolves into something else. Even the podcast, you guys must get a ton of people that ask to be on the show. I'm so honored that you guys asked me to be on the show, but I actively didn't ask because I never want to put you in a position that if I'm not the right fit for the content, it's your prerogative, right? Like there's no end game. And going back to the Serhant conversation, it took me a while to figure this out. In a world where everybody's just waiting to speak and be heard, I was trying to listen, like as I was asking questions about how they do their operations and how they like, intake new leads and go through. I'm like, well, what CRM do you guys use? And what does your drip plan look like? And this, that, and the other. If I can make a couple mental notes of, oh, you know what, I got something for that. And the key is actually what he taught me in his book, write it down and then follow back with people. That's where you surprise them. Like when you actually deliver and say, remember you mentioned that to me like 4 weeks ago, here's a solution. They're like, oh, he actually cares enough to take time to do this. I think a lot of people can find those opportunities.
On the flip side, the key is also rewarding the people that are providing you value. So
Amen.
When we are in this position where now we have a lot of followers, a lot of people reaching out to us, it's the people in our community that are posting us consistently or, thanking us for being funny or something, whether I meet them at a conference or just promoting the Discord or promoting our merchandise or wearing the merchandise. Like you have to also reward them and say, hey, like I see you. Thank you. Because then it gets to a point where it's like, hey, for 5 years, I've been sending you stuff, promoting your stuff, and you've, done nothing. You haven't even commented back to me. Then you start to lose those people and they go elsewhere. So I think that's, the flip side to it too, is you got to reward those people.
Yeah.
And you can be so fancy and overlook somebody in your audience that may end up being a game changer for you don't know the connections of proximity. And I've seen this happen, right? Like people get a little bit of clout on social media and then get asked to be on a podcast or something. And they act like they big time that person. Meanwhile, they have no idea that person could have connected them with somebody that changed their life. And I think you got to remember where you came from. Yeah. The same people that you step on to get to where you're going to go are the same people that are going to be there when you're on your way back. Right. So
this guy, real estate creative, Sterling Granger, who I've mentioned a couple of times on the podcast, he creates these unbelievable live action memes for the broke agent now. He does them like once, twice a week, and they're incredible. They got to take 2 or 3 hours. And the reason I came across him again is because he's been DMing me for years. And I know I've posted his stuff before, but you know, I get a lot of DMs and it got bogged down and I just never saw it again. And then I just went through all of his DMs. I'm like, holy shit, this guy is just sending me like gold after gold. And then I called him and I was like, you know, I really appreciate all this content you've been sending me. Would love to kind of make this more of a thing. Like, can we try to do these once a week? I'll promote you, you create content for us. And, you know, it's just cool to see how that's developed, where someone just deep in the DMs had all this gold and he's a better content creator than, you know, me as far as memes go. So it's really cool. Real Estate Creative, check him out.
I think that's like an important conversation to have too. It's kind of shocking how bad real estate agents kind of first contact is. Like, I get so much of that. Like, people will message me and be like, hey, check out my video. And I'll be like, okay,
look at this. Would you walk into a cafeteria and be like, look at this? Like,
yeah,
phone,
like check
shove
this
it in
out.
somebody's face.
And just like that. And I'm like, you know, happy to look at it. And then they go, well, what would you do better? And, you know, I still try and like give them criticism if I can. But then it's like, oh, I'm glad you like it. You mind giving it a share? It's like, no, like, so now I know why you just did all this. Like, it's just, I just don't like that stuff. Like, they just want to go viral. Like, I'll get people messaging me, hey, how do you go viral? Like, I don't know. Ask fucking someone else. I don't really go viral. You know, I'm consistent with what I do. And there's some that go like have a lot of views, but I wouldn't say anything has gone viral. The one that I think should have went viral is the Stan video. Didn't go viral. I'm pissed about that. That was my
your last couple got like 300,000 plus.
Yeah, but I count viral like a million plus.
Right.
Like, but like, it's not about going viral. It's about being consistent with whatever you're doing. Like, and that's where one viral video is not going to do anything. It's not going to change anything for you. And it's just like weird to see. Even like, we're in a weird place right now, even with like big teams around me who have social media managers. And I'm like, oh, you guys don't have a clue. You don't have a clue what you're doing. Like, you should. I almost feel inclined to message them and be like, you should fire that person. Like, this looks awful. And you're probably paying them 30, 40,000 a year. And they have no idea what you're doing. And it's actually making you look bad. And like, it's making you take a step back, in my opinion. A lot of big teams around me who cannot get a handle on it. So I don't know. It's weird. I just don't try and go viral. Don't message me and just ask me to share your shit. Like, just be cool. Like, I get a lot of people message me and just talk to me like about bands or watches. Like, they know what I like, and I love that. Like, that's awesome. They build a relationship, like you said. And then, you know, down the road, you know, 4 or 5 months in, they're like, hey, check out this piece of content I did. I'm way more like, I'm happy to do that now. And then
give us 5 compliments first.
No, but it's like, let's relate. Share your content with me, and if I like it, I'll share it. I don't want to be put in a position, just like you were saying, Justin, like asking me, you know, if you were asking to be on the podcast, which we do get a lot of people asking, and sometimes you know, we were about to have those people on, so we do, but like, we get a lot of people asking, and it just puts you in a position where you don't want to be rude or mean, but they're not exactly doing anything different or anything that would be very good for the podcast. Like, it wouldn't, and they're just, all they're trying to do is get that clout. Because they know, especially Eric, I mean, he's in this space, he's the best at what he does. Like, for the real estate comedy and the memes and just real estate personalities in general, he's one of the biggest accounts in the space.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. So like, people just, hey, I want to be on. Okay, like, well, what do you do?
It creates.
I sell a lot of houses. Unfortunately, it's got to be more than that these days. You know, a lot of people sell a lot of houses.
It ruins that relationship immediately, because they hate us now because we said no or we didn't respond, and we hate them for asking. So now it's just, you've destroyed it already.
So here's the trick though, right? So if you don't hire me to sell your house, Eric, we're still friends. That's a real friendship, right? So if you don't have me on your podcast, we're still friends, because that's a real friendship. If my relationship is based on you having me on your podcast, we're not really friends. I'm using you. And I think what you were talking about, Matt, that actually ties into the team leaders and social accounts, right? I always say you better off not do social than have somebody that doesn't understand your voice doing your socials. Because if I don't see and feel you in your content, you're going to lose my trust. I remember there was a platform in Canada. I don't know if it was in the States, but every agent, when social media came out, was using the same platform to post on Twitter, Facebook, like LinkedIn. I think it was those three. Pay $50 a month. Here's your boilerplate piece of content. I would go on Twitter every day and I'd see 14 tweets back to back, the exact same copy from every single agent that used this service. And I used to screenshot it and repost it on mine and be like, stop using this platform because your consumer is going to see 3 agents post the same thing. Now you've lost their trust. Trust is the hardest thing to gain, right? From friendships to consumers to everything. And I think that's where being full circle, the clearest version of yourself, or trying to do that self-work of understanding, like, what is my voice? Like, where do I fit in the industry, in my city? What kind of life do I want to create? Using real estate as maybe a vehicle, right? You can make money doing deals. You're never going to get wealthy doing deals. You're going to get wealthy by being in proximity to other people. And you're going to get wealthy by the opportunities the relationships give you, not by selling houses.
Spoken from a true legend.
Yeah, legend.
I want to get into some not so rapid fire, Eric.
Okay.
So we have this segment here. It's called Not So Rapid Fire because we don't actually think of any of the questions before we ask them.
Nice.
So it makes it not so rapid.
It's on brand. I like it.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Okay. Eric, can I ask my first favorite question? This is the one question that we always ask. Okay.
This is easy for you when you have the guaranteed question.
Okay, here we go. Justin, if you're to choose one celebrity, not a real estate celebrity, a real celebrity, actor, musician, to be a part of your brokerage because you think they'd be the best agent, who would it be?
Oh, this is a tough one. I'm trying to think of work ethic. Like, I'm thinking of somebody that just puts their head down. Tom Hardy pops out because he seems to be very adaptable, very clear on who he is as a person. And I think he'd just be intimidating. So I can just bring him with me and scare people into signing contracts.
Intimidating, it would be a good, yeah.
With the Bane mask, if he has the mask on.
We've gotten a lot of, so Eric and I both chose Leo, particularly Leo in Wolf of Wall Street.
He's a GOAT for sure.
Yeah. And then a lot of people had a good strategy where they just chose Kim Kardashian for just eyeballs.
Exposure?
Yeah.
I don't know if you're going to get the right exposure, but.
Well, I mean, it's exposure. So.
You post a listing video on her Instagram, goes out to 200 million people.
Yeah.
That's true.
I mean, one of them's got to sell.
Yeah, and I go with Tom Hardy.
Okay, Tom Hardy.
I don't even think he has Instagram.
Probably not. I can handle the media side. I can make him a star. I don't think you can put work ethic in.
Make Tom Hardy a star.
So if you were starting real estate over today and you had to choose one platform to grow your brand and post consistently on, what would it be?
YouTube, without a doubt.
Oh,
Why?
And it's funny because it's my smallest platform, because I've seen what it's done in a very short period of time with some focus. So yeah. I'm doubling down on that right now.
I keep hearing that. from
We're doing it too, though.
We're
now promoting our links, even though we've been told not to do that, all to YouTube now.
Yeah.
And we're incorporating more shows. So we have a new show coming out called Between Two Lockboxes, which is a play on Between Two Ferns with
that's amazing.
Dan O'Neill's the host, and it's kind of more quick hitting. Would you rather 5-minute?
It's kind of like your lives that you guys do, but in like a more formatted. That's awesome.
Exactly. So it's taking, like the more serious podcasts that we do here and those guests, and then catching them off guard with like 5-minute questions and seeing kind of more of their personality, how they think on their feet. So we're going to incorporate a lot of those shows and kind of more news oriented stuff as well in the future, because we want to hammer YouTube. There's just, in real estate media, there's such a massive opportunity. I don't know if Inman's doing too much.
Nobody's
YouTube
doing
or
it
Housing
well,
Wire.
No,
From
you guys will
perspective.
Yeah, I was looking at some analytics on vidIQ the other day. The reason why I get excited, and sorry to jump in, but it was you don't have to keep producing content on YouTube to the same extent you do on the other platforms. Like, I have videos that will pop out of nowhere just because it's working while you're sleeping, and like it's just always trying to find that audience. And I think you guys are so zeroed in, understanding on who your audience is. If you put the right content out there to find those people first, I think you'll grow faster than a lot of people.
Because you could do once a week on YouTube,
Yeah.
right? Like as long as you're consistent. On Instagram, you kind of have to do once or twice a day if you really want to get that growth. But with
Plus
YouTube, if you're
stories
putting,
and-
plus
Yeah.
stories and everything, it's crazy.
But once a week, and then you could chop it up and put little teasers on TikTok and
Exactly.
Instagram, which is
Mhm.
legit. Okay, this is a two-parter. Okay. Cars or watches?
Cars all day.
Okay. One car for the rest of your life. What would it be?
Oh, man of war. Well, see, my family's in the Ford Lincoln business, so it's really tough for me not to just stick with maybe a Raptor, probably, because when the zombies come, that's probably what I'm going to want to.
That's what Ari Lyondike has from the Bachelor. He's got a
Friend of the
Ford
show.
Raptor, friend of the show. He loves it.
I have 3 friends that have been on the Bachelor, and it didn't work out well for any of them.
No?
No, that would they're characters. They're pretty funny guys.
Yeah.
So one was evil genius Drew, who was completely the heel. So I don't know if you remember Drew, but he was like
Which
one of
season?
the biggest villains of all time. I don't know which season he was on. And then there was Craig. Craig was also very well known. He was back in the day. And then there's another guy that I know through a mutual entrepreneurial connection that his name
we
will
won't
not be
speak.
mentioned.
Yeah, we won't
exactly.
speak. So you're going with a Ford Raptor?
Ford Raptor, so I can drive
Okay.
over the zombies when the world collapses.
All right. Eric, what would yours be? Just curious.
Not a car guy. I don't know.
Neither am I.
Infinity.
Mine'd be a Kia Forte. Okay. Eric, you want to?
Yeah. I got one more,
Okay.
and not the final question.
Okay.
You're a big Clubhouse guy, right? Still, kind of.
Yeah.
Still, yeah, we just did practical and tactical today. We chopped it up about buyer and seller qualifications for an hour. So for sure.
Is there still a huge crowd there? And what do you think is going to happen to Clubhouse? Because I see Twitter Spaces is kind of eating it. And when I go on Clubhouse now, which is never, but when I've just checked in to see if those rooms are still going on, the ones that I used to go on during the pandemic, I don't really see them anymore. So what's going to happen with it?
Yeah, so I don't think social audio is going away. I know LinkedIn's taking a run at it. I know Twitter Space is doing their thing. Why I really like Clubhouse is I found a wicked tribe of people. For example, when I was sitting down doing my practical and tactical room today, you asked me like, what's the value of it? It's very much, I got an MBA level education through sitting down with guys like Andy Tse. Andy Tse's on there all the time. He's on pace to sell $1 billion in Silicon Valley, one of the top agents in the globe. And I got an insight into how he hosts his open houses, what his follow-up looks like, what his qualification calls look like with buyers. People in our industry have paid $10,000 for that type of access and coaching, right? So you kind of get what you put out of it. So I just really am thoughtful about where I spend my time. And again, if I go back to what my core competencies are, real estate and media, it's the only 2 spaces I spend time in Clubhouse in is those 2 rooms, right? So I'm in there with YouTubers and I'm in there with real estate people. Where I think it's going to go, it could blow up, in a year and be gone easily, right? Like I do think that if the leadership of Clubhouse doesn't build the right platform for the users to continue building their communities on or grow them, I think it'll be gone. But I will say, like, I am noticing in the niche rooms that used to only be 30, 40, 50, 60 people, they're getting bigger, but they're a lot more niche. And it is, you got to understand the Clubhouse isn't Instagram. It's not TikTok. It's not YouTube. Like the rooms where people were chasing 1,500, 2,000, 3,000 people, I never went to those rooms because there was no depth to them. A lot of times they were a funnel, they were a coaching scheme. There's a lot of fake people on Clubhouse that like to talk about a lot of stuff they know nothing about.
Yeah.
Those people fizzled out. And I think that's why you see that the large numbers dropping is those people, you can't last on a social audio platform talking about the same thing every day for 6 or 7 months without being found out versus
But Matt and I did.
We had some real characters in our rooms. Holy
Really did.
shit, man, saying the same thing over and
Always.
over. Just wanted to hear themselves talk.
very much that. And like where I find that I enjoy it is the YouTube guys, it's always fresh. It's always like, hey, I just figured out this idea. They're like, oh, did you know? I'll bring you guys, if you're in YouTube rooms, I'll bring you into some sick spaces. Viper, who's actually one of the main connections at vidIQ, runs this ambiguous room called Coffee Talk. You wouldn't even know it's a YouTube room, but he's like one of the direct guys at vidIQ. So
The guy's name is Viper.
It's Viper.
VYPPR.
Sounds like he's from Ozark.
Yeah.
He's a tech guy.
Like
He
a
does
hacker.
a tech review channel, but it's pretty cool because if you can go in there and develop relationships and take them off platform, it doesn't really matter if Clubhouse is here or gone. Those relationships are still in place if you put the effort forth to build them, right?
It's a hell of an answer.
Love it. I think that's a good close right there. Viper. I want a cool name now. Well, Maddie Mayhem is pretty cool, but Justin, we appreciate you. Appreciate you being on the show. Can't wait to speak with you next month. No, almost next month, end of March.
Is that virtually?
No, that is going to be
In
the
person.
first live event, and we are
supposed
going
to be in person.
We're gonna fucking. I'm going there regardless.
Regardless, even if they shut it down, Pat's gonna
I'll
show
do it
up.
virtually from there, but I'm going there. So I'm excited to actually meet you in person because we haven't met in person yet, but we've been chatting a lot. So stoked for everything. Eric, want to ask your final question?
Yeah. Final question. Where can the people find you?
Justin Konico on all platforms. You can go to justinkonico.com. Most of my stuff is there. Make sure you find this guy. As random as my name is, there's another guy who runs I think, male burlesque club out of Vegas with my same name. So don't find that guy. Same age range, different niche altogether.
Right. Okay. So if you're seeing some like weird Magic Mike looking motherfucker, that's not the Justin Konico we're talking about. All right. Sweet. Well, Justin, thanks so much for being on.
Way to end it. See you guys. Bye-bye.